Hi, this is Natalie Lander, voice of Kinsey, Tara Branford, Stargirl, and many others. You are listening to a W2M Net podcast. You can visit W2Mnet.com for other podcasts about entertainment, video games, sports, and wrestling.
We'll start the countdown at 2.
That was an accident! This is the first time I've actually had to do this shit in how long?
I mean, you're not wrong. I'm not going to deny that. But still, what a wonderful way to come back. Good evening, afternoon, whenever you're listening, everybody. And welcome to the Kickoff, a presentation of Network. My name is Harry Broadhurst, joining you once again. It's been a while. How you been? How's the family? What's going on? We had some shit happen, and I think that's the nicest way I can put it. We'll explain in more details a little bit later, but for now, introductions are as per usual in order, starting with the once again producer. I don't know what I'm saying. It's been a long 4 weeks. The anchorman, Erik Watkins.
Yeah, and you talk about me. The only difference is I have an excuse. I'm drunk! Wait a minute. Is that because I'm drunk, or does some look different around here?
There is an unfamiliar now that you mention it. One face is familiar, is the unprofessional Jason Teasley.
It's good to be back.
Is it? Is it really?
Yes. Yes, it is. Yes.
And welcome to the Kickoff family, the Riz. I'm sorry, my internet connection funny, and I had a moment there. I'm sorry, Randy. Welcome to the Kickoff family, the Riz, Randy Isbelle.
At least I know this is a dysfunctional family.
You're not kidding. We're off to a fantastic. Honestly, we're off to the exact kind of start I thought we'd get off to.
You said get off.
Shut up, Beavis. Yeah, cool. All right. So there's an explanation in order for the hype. So 3 years ago, coming up on 4 years now, there was a little show started with the intent of Bar Talk meets PWI. Or not PWI, PTI. I'm off my game. I don't want to hear a goddamn word, Teasley. Anyway, the intent of this show was to have a group of friends just getting together, shooting the stuff, and talking football. Kind of a loose format in place in order to keep things on track. That's obviously sailed for this episode already. But the idea behind it was that despite the fact that we all come from different backgrounds, it was meant to be a friendly discussion. Without going into too many details, things turned very unfriendly a couple of weeks ago. And in the process of them doing so, it was decided that the former fourth member of the Kickoff, Brandon Biscobing's services, were no longer needed on the show. I want to say right now that I still consider Brandon to be a friend. I'm still willing to be friendly with him. I'm still willing to reach out and conversate with him. And I hope that he is able to find the peace that he deserves. It was in the best interest of the show, however, that he no longer remain a member. Thus, Randy joining us here. Jason, Erik, you guys want to give any quick thoughts here as to what happened over the course of the last month and what's led to Randy joining the show?
So
Jason, I know you got kind of blindsided with this by Rattleage, but you were very professional when you discussed it with him.
I just feel that Brandon had a lot of balls in the air, so to say, and his priorities kind of skewed. So I just wish him the best. And like I said, I have no ill will feelings toward him. And anything going forward, like I said, no ill will. I wish him the best. I guess that's if anybody really wants to hear me go in depth, you can check out me and Mark Rattledge over talking about a priest that turns into a velociraptor, and get my full explanation on that show's wrap-up.
Velocipastor.
Yes.
Erik?
Admittedly, during the course of events, I went very, very scorched earth. And I said a few things that I wound up having to apologize for. But in the end, there were a lot of things that needed to be said, some of them on my part. But I hope that he forgives me, he continues to reach out, all is well, and that Nabisco will become a permanent sponsor.
Ultimately, Jason's decision. Ultimately, Erik has a say in this as well. Ultimately, I do as well. I am open to the possibility of Brandon coming back to help us finish Greatest of All Teams, if he would like to give his input. I am open to the possibility of Bisco joining as a guest in the future as well. I feel, though, as if some bridges may have been burnt that might not necessarily be able to be repaired with regards to the situation, and I don't know if you'll ever hear his voice on the show again. I want to thank him for the time that he did spend with us, and I wish him nothing but the best in his future endeavors.
Oh yeah, he's got still a pretty good future ahead of him, but a leopard doesn't change his spots.
And on this episode, we turn it over to Erik at the news desk.
Well, we will shortly. Let's first of all get to know Randy a little bit here since he's joining the show. All right, Randy.
Let's see it.
So, I mean, we kind of talked about this a little bit off air. We've officially brought a division rivalry back to the show now, for those of you who don't know. We used to have one on the show when Sean would sit in, as he was a Dallas fan, and then obviously Jason and Brandon were New York Giants fans. Well, now I'm the one with the division rival on the show. As a diehard Buffalo Bills fan, Randy, why don't you tell everybody who your favorite team is?
Yeah, do we have to? Do we have to talk about that? Do we just move on, right? No?
S-U-C-K, suck.
That's what we are. I am a New York Jets fan. Always rooting to be second or third in the division. We'll be rooting that way again this year, but mostly because a different team's good. So I know Buffalo's going to be good, but I still root for my shitty team.
Well,
I'm finally not alone.
Well, we'll see what happens in the division, though, with New England and Cam Newton. Because they didn't sign him to get back Jarrett Stidham.
No.
Speaking of Anchor, man, that probably should have been notes to discuss in the downtime.
You told me 6. Sorry.
I did. It's okay. We'll discuss it now. Jason, your thoughts on Newton to the Patriots?
He's black, and he's a quarterback. And if anybody can control him, it's Belichick.
Erik?
I mean, he's going to have a huge chip on his shoulder, and the narrative at the end of the season is going to be, damn, if only he had more weapons.
Yeah, but I think Cam has always had issues with weapons until he got McCaffrey over there in Carolina. He didn't really have much over there. It's all going to be dependent on that offensive line, I think, with the Patriots as far as how Cam Newton does. I mean, that was the other big issue he had in Carolina is he was running around to try to save his life. So if Belichick can come up with schemes to keep him upright and safe and uninjured, I think Cam Newton's a huge signing for New England.
I think Newton's going to test our system quarterback theory as far as New England goes, because Newton and Brady play almost polar opposite styles of football. But if Newton's able to have the same success in New England that Brady was able to, then you could definitely tell that the New England system is a product of Belichick and Robert Kraft more so than the quarterback.
Well, not only that, it's, number one, I have trust in Dante Scarnecchia, Patriots offensive line coach. If anybody can turn chicken shit into chicken salad, he can. But we're also going to be able to test this theory on the pretty cheap because at a $7.5 million max contract, yeah, this is going to be about proving a point and then seeing what Newton does afterwards.
I would say that's an excellent bargain deal, and I'm worried about having to face Newton twice in a season now. I think that having the opportunity for him to work under Belichick is going to do nothing but advance Newton's skill level. The question is like Erik said, will he have the weapons around him in order to remain relevant here against a much more beefed up Buffalo Bills offense as well?
Well, if you get a certain tight end from Cleveland, that would help.
Yeah, there are rumors that David Njoku wants out of Cleveland.
Who doesn't nowadays?
I mean, you're not wrong. All right, so Jets football fan in the NFL, he adds something that we haven't previously had on this show here. As Randy has a little bit of a bias when it comes to college football.
I have a what?
A Left Coast bias.
I mean, basically, that's where I live over here. I watch most of it, and unlike most of the people in the country, I'm still awake when the West Coast teams play football. So, yeah, it'll be nice to be. I mean, if we get college football this year, it'd be nice to even you guys out a little bit.
Me and Erik are big proponents of football after dark over here on the East Coast. We always talk about the Pac-12 games, the Mountain West game, and what's the other one I'm forgetting that's out there? I know there's another conference out there.
Oh, geez.
No.
The WAC.
No,
the WAC is out here.
Yeah, that's it. But WAC is basketball only. That's why I was spacing.
No, WAC has football. It's the WCC that's basketball only.
Actually, no. You had a lot of the members of the WAC. They broke off and formed the Mountain.
Did they break off now?
Yeah, they broke off and formed the Mountain West, and then the WAC dissolved football.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I was trying to place a third conference out there, but there's only two main conferences out there now.
This is what happens when you go on quarantine for 4 months and you get hooked into NCAA football 13. All my conferences are all sorts of messed up.
Well, that's what you get for having 13.
That's the last 13 or 14, whatever the last one is. That's what I've been playing.
Remember, Erik, the NCAA lost its video game license in like 2015.
Yes, and remember, name, image, and likeness. That's coming back.
Yeah. And when that next game comes out, I can finally upgrade my college football.
I actually saw a theory that they might do college teams in Madden next year.
Look, if they do college teams with that 6v6 yard mode, I'm all on it.
I want them to bring back Madden Arcade. That shit was fun as hell.
You might have something towards that. Stay tuned. I've been hearing a lot of chatter.
All right, so Randy is technically a Washington State fan, I believe. Conversation.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really have a set college football team, because I don't follow it like a team closely enough where I can like name off a bunch of people. But I've been to a bunch of Washington State games over the last few years, so I technically can call me a Cougar fan.
Did you see Florida Man before he became Florida Man?
I'm not.
He's asking if you ever saw Gardner Minshew play at Washington State.
Oh, yeah. I went to a few of those games.
Randy clearly had listened to the show previously.
Oh.
It's all right. You'll catch up.
I told him baptism by fire.
Yeah, I'll learn.
You falling asleep over there, Jason? Wake up.
I'm awake. I'm old, but I'm not that damn old.
Normally, it takes him a couple of hours before he falls asleep on the show.
Yeah.
I will say I am kind of looking forward to getting that left coast bias over here, though, because of the fact that we do talk about football after dark here, but a lot of times we don't necessarily go into full details about the Pac-12 games and the Mountain West games there. So it'll be interesting to see to be on the show with somebody that has an opportunity to watch those late night games, even if us here on the East Coast aren't able to do so on a consistent basis.
And somebody that, that rounds everything out, and we're not just having a 3-person college football discussion.
That's
and
true,
someone that has different reasons for hating the college football playoff.
See, the Pac-12 is so good at screwing themselves out of that playoffs. I can't even blame the playoff system for that. They just whoever's at the top of the Pac-12, is going to lose the next week.
I give you Utah last year to Oregon.
It wasn't even
In a
just
game
them.
I called, by the way. I called that predictions last year. I'm just saying. All right. So let's get to what the actual reason for the show is here. Obviously, this is kind of our welcome back episode. You'll note that we missed a significant amount of time. You'll notice it in the feed. You'll notice it through the fact that we haven't been real active on the website either. So we've decided to pause our greatest of all teams for this particular episode. And we are instead going to bring you kind of a catch-up news and notes edition of the kickoff here this week. In order to do so, I throw things over to the anchor, and Mr. Watkins, the floor is yours.
Slightly more sober, but that could change by the end of the show. Stay tuned. First off, we have the half-billion-dollar man. Harry, what time is it?
Gotta help.
Yes, Harry, you're correct. It's Mahomes time. To the tune of a $503 million extension.
Oh, my God, I just realized how much Randy looks like Robert Taylor.
It's true. I would also like to apologize to everybody. I created that monster. He was on my podcast first, before anything else, and I apologize to anyone he's ever done it with.
You're fired.
Sorry. It's my fault. To
answer your question, congratulations. And it's an impressive feat to manage to make a $5 million contract in the process. That being said, though, this is an awful lot of money to give a young man just 2 years into his career.
Well, I mean, nearly 10,000 yards, MVP, Super Bowl MVP. I can see it.
Yeah, but you see how much that guaranteed, like $107 million. Something happened to him. And I know Jason has been wishing ill on Patrick Mahomes for 2 seasons now. But if anything were to happen to him, Kansas City is fucked against the cap.
Yeah, I still hope he breaks his neck and still becomes a quadriplegic, just so I can troll Robert Taylor, and send him wheelchair pictures and everything, and rascal pictures. But I think Kansas City has set themselves up for failure. Me and Erik talked about this before. When the other contracts come up, they're going to run into a huge issue trying to sign everybody to keep that dynasty in place.
Randy, what are your thoughts on the contract?
At first, I thought it was just so much money, but I mean, the way it's broken down, I think it's a pretty good one for the Chiefs as far as it's back-ended, and you know that by the time they get to year 6 or 7, that they're going to be able to restructure and kind of work their way out that way. I'm still a proponent of don't overpay your quarterback, but I do think Mahomes, as young as he is and how good as he's been in the league, I mean, he deserves to be the highest paid quarterback. But I looked up this stat when I was talking to Robert Taylor, as you had brought up his name, and the highest paid quarterback in the NFL has not won the Super Bowl since 1994. So, honestly, again, Mahomes is so good, he deserves it, but I can't wait for somebody like Dak Prescott to ask for Mahomes' money. It's going to be great.
Did you guys see the meme that we're making the rounds when Patrick Mahomes' contract got announced? And it was just Dak standing there rubbing his hand. Mm-hmm. Oh, about to get paid.
Oh, Dak. We'll see how clueless you really are.
But honestly, I think that this contract is not going to hurt the Chiefs for the next year or two, but it's when everyone else on that team wants their money, then that's when it's really going to start hitting. And that's how it always works. I mean, you look at the Seahawks with Wilson on his rookie deal. It was you build the team, and then you get that young quarterback that fits the system, and you're really good for a few years. And that's what the Chiefs are doing because you had Mahomes for cheap. So it's definitely going to be interesting to see how the Chiefs look in like 3 or 4 or 5 years.
How much longer are Kelsey and Hill under contract for? Does anybody know?
I think Hill just signed another contract not long ago. Him or Kelsey. Give me a second. I can look it up.
Because I think Kelsey's the one whose contract is coming up.
I was going to say, I think Kelsey's contract expires at the end of next season, does it not? If it's not next season, it's the year after. I'm not going to say that the pieces aren't there in Kansas City because they clearly are. I mean, they are the defending Super Bowl champions. But when you have one player that's going to be taking up as much money for the franchise going forward, you have to hope that nothing happens to him that could in any way jeopardize the future of that franchise because of all the money you have committed to him as is, as well as all the potential money that you could have committed to him down long term as well.
Well, the good news for Kansas City. Oh, go ahead, Jason.
Hill becomes a free agent in 2023.
And Kelsey's 2022.
Okay, so Kelsey is not this season, but the season after.
Yeah.
Well, there's a little bit of good news because, number one, this extension doesn't kick in immediately. They've got a couple years. But between all of the clauses that they have in his contract as far as what he can or can't do, and how this $500 million is really structured, most of it being roster bonuses and etc., they have ways that they can maneuver and manipulate to sign a couple pieces down the road. It's not as bad.
Not to mention it'll probably end up becoming a Bobby Bonilla situation down the end of the line as well, where a lot of this money is backdated towards the end of the contract, where he gets it all in bulk towards the end.
Oh, dear Lord. Even by the time that this contract is over, Bobby Bonilla will still be getting paid.
Yes, that has been confirmed.
Homeboy was smart, what can I say? All right.
Well, hey, Bruce Sutter was just as smart. He's been getting paid since '85.
Next topic, Erik.
Well, for this one, should we say Heil Jackson? Deshaun Jackson needs to get a little bit of history straight before he starts quoting people on Twitter and popping off at the mouth.
Okay, I need to explain my laughter there. Because for basically the entire time since we've started this show, Randy has sat there emotionless. As soon as Erik mentioned the title of this topic, you just see the color wash out of Randy's face. Like, oh shit, are we really going there?
Well, I mean, we have to
really
go there. I mean,
yeah, we tackle hard subjects.
He's an idiot, and I think it's getting handled okay. As far as I am so anti-cancel culture that we see on the internet these days, somebody says something stupid and all of a sudden they can't do anything ever again. I hate that. So I didn't want to see Deshaun Jackson lose his job, just like I didn't want to see who is the white receiver for the Eagles that threw out the N-word at the concert?
Riley Cooper.
I didn't want him to lose his job over it. Just use it as a learning experience. I think there are players that are doing the right thing and getting a hold of him. Edelman with Jackson wanting to take him to the museum and stuff. So punish him a little bit, make it a learning experience. Obviously, his apology was fake as hell, but I'm glad that he didn't lose his career over saying something stupid because I hate that. But it's not a comfortable thing after everything that's happened in this country in the last few months for them that to happen.
I mean, I hate Deshaun Jackson for reasons that, happened on the field. But, like, I agree with Randy. I'm very anti-cancel culture. I'm very anti being offended. I'm a very offensive person. Anybody that listens to this show knows that I'm who I am. I don't. If I offend you, it's your problem, not mine. I kind of say what's on my mind. I don't really pander to anyone. Sorry, Sean. But, it's one of those things that use it as a learning experience. Maybe make him make a donation or something. Yeah, the apology was fake as hell. It was just a pandering to save his ass, to kind of try to lessen the blow, but the damage was already done. I'm not one for the whole "I'm sorry" culture anyway. If you say something, you mean it. You only say "I'm sorry" after you see the repercussions. So, just take it as a learning experience. Show what needs to be taught, rather than immediately um, pressurizing him and affecting him, because people make mistakes. It happens. I've screwed up. I know it's. Don't let my wife hear that. Me actually admitting that I've made mistakes in my life. But I think it just needs to be something that people can look at, see that he made a mistake, forgive him for it, move on. And it's just like bringing up stuff that we see now. 15, 16 year old, when athletes are 15, 16-year old, they're idiots. They post something on social media, and now that they're entering into a professional career, it's being brought up, and they're thinking that that's the person that they are, rather than that was a kid that made a tweet.
Erik?
I mean, personally, when it comes to the idea of cancel culture, had it been around when I was in my semi-heyday and leading up to now, I wouldn't be on this podcast, plain and simple. I don't necessarily like what he said. I don't really like that he got his facts wrong, and of all people to attribute something, let alone incorrectly, that happened. But again, he had people come to his defense. I get it. In today's climate, I get what he said. But I knew it was going to be a bad look, and I'm very thankful that it's being handled this way. And if I'm with Sean, I take Julian Edelman up on his offer. Go to the museum, go to the other museum, sit down and have that conversation. Be uncomfortable so that way everybody can learn something.
You mentioned the fact of people coming to his backing here, and let's talk about the fact that another Jackson completely put his mouth in the process as well of this. Steven Jackson trying to come to Deshaun Jackson's aid and basically looking like a giant moron in the process, to the point that he had to backtrack his defense of Deshaun Jackson the very next day as well. In 2020, you cannot say something and expect there not to be blowback if you are a professional athlete. Is it fair to them? Absolutely not. It is as Charles Barkley once said, I am not a role model, you just make me out to be one. The problem is, in the current culture, athletes are considered role models by the vast majority of the American public, and anything and everything that they do is front page news for the sports section and front page and headline story for something like ESPN Sports Center or any kind of sports flashes you hear on any of the radio stations. You will very quickly become cannon fodder for a story if you say something to the tone of what Deshaun Jackson said. It is that simple.
Especially
it is a learning.
I was gonna say, especially this summer when there's no games to distract anybody from. Mm-hmm. So it's always this kind of news that's gonna get everything, because, like you said, SportsCenter needs a topic somewhere.
Talk radio, especially with all the shows that are on ESPN and Fox Sports 1 and stuff, all the daily TV shows that they have. If something like this happens, when you put your foot in your mouth so visibly in the current climate, it is going to become talking fodder for days and weeks to come. Erik is exactly correct here. Take Julian Edelman up on his offer. Go to the Jewish Museum of National History. Make a donation to various Jewish charities to actually put your money where your mouth is, both literally and metaphorically speaking, in trying to make some kind of make good, some kind of reparation for the damage that your comments would have said going out to a mass audience. Prove that you're willing to learn and become a better person for it. The same way somebody like Riley Cooper did when he made his donations to the various organizations when the videotape came out from the concert.
Exactly.
Just treat
Julian
everybody
wants to take him to the.
women.
Well, Julian wants to take him to the Holocaust Museum and Museum of Jewish American History. Deshaun wants to take Julian to the African American Museum. Julian even offered that. Go ahead, fulfill both sides of that. Sit down and talk. Make it a podcast episode. I think that would be enlightening for everybody.
So what you're saying, Eric, is let's talk about it?
Basically, again.
Available in the archives here on the W2M Network. Anybody else have anything for the Deshaun Jackson story? I heard your Kareem Hunt comment, Jason. I chose to ignore it.
That's just treat everybody like Kareem Hunt treats women.
Views and opinions of Jason T. Son of a bitch. Eric.
Preseason? What preseason? So, the NFL officially announced a while back that they were cutting out the first and fourth weeks of the preseason, meaning teams would only play 2 games, one home, one away, and the preseason would start a little bit later. Well, the NFL Players Association has decided, nah, forget those 2 games. With everything going on, just forget the preseason altogether. There's going to be a meeting in the minds, and there's a few ideas on the table, including just a 1-game preseason. No matter how this goes down, there's going to be intrigue.
All right, I'm going to go first here if you guys don't mind, because I actually have several thoughts on this particular topic.
The floor is
one. If you're not going to do preseason games, then do inter-squad scrimmages with two teams, like local teams. Have local teams stick with the local teams nearest to them, and let them do scrimmages so they can simulate real game formats. Because the fact of the matter is, without the simulation of the real game format, as soon as these guys are put into positions where they have to perform in game formats, injuries are going to pile up if they are not ready to do so.
Agreed.
2, one preseason game, the absolute only way that works is if all those games are held on neutral sites, and I do not see that as a viable possibility. Because then you're taking away revenue from one of the teams that has to go on the road to another team for that one preseason game. 3, at this point in their careers, with all of the options for the inter-squad scrimmaging and everything like that, is preseason really a necessity anymore? It's not like the only thing that these games really do is help teams fill out their rosters, you know? Certain places, yeah, you'll decide a starting job here and there, but more often than not, it's the guy fighting for that 52nd, 53rd, 54th spot on the roster.
Yeah, I can really see all of those points, and I mean, I know a lot of teams really prefer the inter-squad scrimmages rather than the actual preseason games themselves. And I know that even before the pandemic, there was going to be a shift towards that one way or another. My main complaint about the one preseason game format is, how are you going to find the neutral sites to where you'll be able to conduct those safely?
That's a very good question, because of the fact that various states are still in various states are still in various states of emerging lockdown when it comes to the current pandemic era. How high are you going to have various sites? Jason, your thoughts on the potential adaptation of the preseason schedule?
I think eliminating preseason is ridiculous. Like you already stated, you're going to see a lot of injuries. You're going to see a lot of revenue lost. Also, you're going to see teams, if you do have that one preseason game, you're going to see like the bottom roster slots playing rather than showing that that actually people that do participate and go to preseason game, you're not going to see the people you want to see play, even if it's for a series or anything. It's going to take a step backwards, and I think the Players Association needs to really think about this, because it's actually going to be more detrimental because of the injuries that would occur. Because if you jump right into a game atmosphere without any buffer there, the first 2 weeks are going to be horrendous for revenue. People's not want to attend games. I know that there's, we don't have this on the docket, but there's already talks of, a backlash about a recent decision made by NFL. So you're going to cut that revenue down even further, due to you're not going to see the best games that a team can put on the field.
Well, let's talk about the fact, too, that a lot of the teams have already come out in their email blasts to their season ticket holders and told them that, by and large, most likely, seating is going to be limited in these venues, even for regular season games, which means odds are seating is going to be even more limited for preseason games. Thus, it defeats the point of having a ton of them happen. It defeats the point of a lot of these teams traveling to various locations for games, when it'd be easier just to scrimmage up against the NFL team that's closest to your location. Randy, your thoughts on where we are with the NFL's preseason format?
Yeah, I think the preseason should just go away. I'm with you guys as far as the scrimmages and stuff. As was mentioned a few times, I think teams would rather do that. Just get with the local team and play a few times and work things out, especially if you don't play each other that year. I think that has seemed to work out way better anyways. As far as the revenue goes, I mean, as you guys said right there at the end, and revenue is going to be down. I mean, that's already a lock, because these stadiums are not going to be filled up to capacity because of all the COVID stuff. If they're even allowed to have people at all, I mean, who knows what's going to happen in the next few months, and it changes. We've seen a few states just go crazy with it. So, but as far as the injuries and stuff, I think if they cut it down to just the one preseason game, I think I disagree. I think you will see a lot more starters in that game, as long as it is 2 weeks before the season starts, because that'll be set up like the third preseason game in the setup we're used to. So I think you will see starters in the first half like you normally do for the third preseason game. But that it all depends if we get 1 or 2 preseason games at all.
The idea behind the preseason being as relevant as it has been over the course of the last couple of years tells you that you really don't need a full-length one anymore in the NFL to begin with, because you have all these teams. The Giants traditionally do well in the preseason. The Browns traditionally do well in the preseason. And over the course of the last couple of calendar years, those teams has made a mark during the regular season. You could have the Giants play the Jets. You could have Buffalo would have to find somebody closer to them. Buffalo would probably end up playing like Philadelphia, because that would probably be the closest team for Buffalo that was in a division rival. Or you
Who
go
would
on the
Cincinnati
opposite.
play?
Cincinnati would probably Cincinnati. Oh, that's a very good question, because all of their closest teams are division rivals. Maybe Chicago.
Yeah, I was thinking Chicago, Minnesota,
Indianapolis. They can play Indianapolis.
Yeah.
That's true, unless it's a year where the North plays the South.
Yeah, I mean, but then you got teams like, look at just throw this out there, the Chiefs, the Panthers. You do have those teams that don't really have a really close team to them that they would have to travel.
So
Well,
you would have to have some play teams to where they would have to play somebody in their division or very close by, if the whole idea is to minimize travel.
Alternatively to that, though, with the NFL owners having the kind of expenses that they have, a lot of these teams fly private anyway. It would just be one more private jet to charter.
less private jet chartering, more trying to insulate in a bubble. That was the whole point of eliminating the preseason games, at least some of them to begin with.
I mean, obviously, we're still a month out from what would be the start of the preseason, thereabouts. So things are going to change significantly between now and then, I'm sure. And I'm sure that we here at the Kickoff will bring you all the latest updated news as far as that goes as best as we can as well. Mr. Anchorman, topic number 4.
Speaking of travel and speaking of altering schedules, multiple conferences have made many decisions as far as the football landscape. The Ivy League has said, we're not doing fall sports. We're not. The National Junior College Athletic Association has just said, we're moving football to the spring. You've had the CIAA, which is a Division II HBCU conference, cancel fall sports. And now within the Power 5, you've had both the Big Ten and the Pac-12 decide they're going conference only for the football season, with other conferences expected to follow suit.
Jay, why don't you lead us off here with the conversation about college going to conference-only schedules?
I think it's going to hurt a lot of colleges. We've talked about this off air, and we can bring it to air. College football drives a lot of revenue for the college in itself. A lot of other sports feed off of the revenue that college football does bring in, as well as a lot of things for in the college as well. I mean, college football is almost over $1 billion a year business.
Try 4.
So that's going to hurt. Also, you see teams scrambling. I know right now we're waiting. I can speak on this. We've already lost one opponent this year in Maryland. And right now, Florida State is in question on the Chick-fil-A Kickoff Classic for us. So that would be 2 games. Now, tried to find two teams to fill those spots on a extremely short notice is an AD's nightmare. So I understand why, but the financial impact for colleges is going to be felt throughout the entire college, just not the football side.
Randy?
Yeah, I think it's going to be interesting. I think more dominoes are going to fall. I think more conferences are going to go for the conference-only idea. As far I see it on the radio and stuff all the time. People going, well, it makes no sense that Texas can go to Oklahoma and be fine, but they can't go to Kansas or like an SEC team, and that won't be fine. To me, I think conferences are doing this because they expect the schedules to get really wonky anyways as far as travel goes. Again, with the COVID stuff, we don't know, second wave, who knows what's going to happen. So I think they're going conference only to give them a easier way to rearrange schedules and make things work within their own conference without having to figure out 12 games. They can do it within their conference and move around a little bit. So, and even then that might change, and the one group that moved to the spring, that could be the entire college football landscape, and we could all just play the whole thing in spring. Or it could be that the Ivy League is as smart as they say, and we just don't have football at all. So I think most of these conferences right now are taking that first step and just going conference only, because who knows what's going to happen. So it's a lot easier to deal with schedules in conference than, as was said, try to come up with these extra teams if dates have to get moved. I think it's a lot easier in conference.
I know Jason had something to add to what you just said there, but before you do, it was the NJCAA that announced that spring football was in the National Junior College Athletic Association. As far as the Ivy League, I heard that they were pushing fall sports back to the beginning of January, but it wasn't necessarily a cancellation of football.
Oh, basically, they're canceling fall sports. They were originally going to do a conference-only football season, but then they decided not to have any sports until January 1st. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. I said corrected then. Jason, you had something to add to what Randy said.
Yeah, so I'm going to throw this out because, my college football team is in a not geographically friendly conference. So where we're playing our conference games, we're playing, teams are flying halfway across the country. So you have an argument there. If you're going to be in conference, most teams, geographically are, relative to each other. West Virginia, who is my team, we play in the Big 12. Most of those teams are Midwest teams. Texas, Oklahoma, Kansas State, Iowa State. So Iowa State. So there you have that argument of if you just play that at conference game, it's still just same as if you played a normal and then you throw in the whole Notre Dame fiasco, who is not part of a conference. Do they cancel football for 2020?
I have something about that.
Well, you're black. We don't care.
I actually have an idea about that as well. Eric. Do you think that if push comes to shove and they go conference or only, do you think Notre Dame becomes an honorary member of the ACC this year?
That's exactly what I was going to say. The ACC has been in talks with Notre Dame to the fact that if all of the Power 5 go conference only, Notre Dame just fills out their schedule with ACC teams.
See, ACC's an interesting one too because their two furthest teams away from each other is Connecticut and Miami. So that's a haul.
Yeah,
so
that's why. But that's why I think that the travel is not the issue with going conference only. It's just being able to rearrange schedules and work within the conference is the reason why they're going this way.
Okay, first of all, Connecticut was in the American Athletic Conference. Now that they moved to the Big East, their football team is an independent.
Did they go into? I know that didn't they move their basketball team to ACC?
No, they moved back to the Big East.
Oh, okay, my bad. Well, then it would be Syracuse. Syracuse went ACC.
Would be New York.
So it would be Syracuse, Miami.
Not that great of a difference, but a little bit geographically there. All right, you have something else to add to that, Eric?
It's two big states with quote-unquote outbreaks.
Not to mention, this brings up to the point of college football economics. Number one, they're trying to buy themselves some time. You cut out the non-conference games, you lose money, but you also save yourself almost a month. Second of all, college football is a $4 billion business overall, not just one. And look at Stanford, they're cutting 11 sports for good after next year, if that happens. And I really think that with this kind of a situation, when the time comes up to where TV contracts and everything get renegotiated, you're going to see a lot more, at least I would hope, regional conference realignments rather than getting these big name schools for cash grabs.
Let me ask you guys this real quick in kind of that regard. Did you guys happen to check the article on SportsIllustrated.com where they talked about regional realignment for college football?
No, I got to look at that one.
All right, so if I've seen bits and pieces, but I know it wasn't it never really hit the mainstream. I will find the article. I will link you guys to the article. Be prepared. It is a topic we will discuss next week.
Okay.
All right, as far as the whole college football conference only thing for me goes, I think at this point it's almost a necessity. In addition to the extra time that it would buy you guys in order to be able to attempt to salvage what is possibly left of the season, having the opportunity to face foes that you're familiar with would give you the opportunity to not have to be in as much of a training camp, as much of a study session on a week-to-week basis there, where the players would have the opportunity to not be around each other as much and not potentially spread anything to their teammates before any kind of a game situation would even come into play. So I get the idea behind going conference only, but I do agree with Jason that the Big 12 is screwed, specifically if you're a West Virginia fan, because they would have the furthest travel out of anybody based on this scenario.
Missouri and the SEC.
Syracuse to Miami.
Are they the same? Aren't they on different sides of the Big East? They could just not play this year. Because is it one in the Atlantic, one in the Coastal?
Yeah, Miami's in the Coastal. Syracuse is in the Atlantic. But what about Missouri in the SEC East?
Yeah, well, Missouri's screwed. They gotta come to Florida, so they're screwed.
Yeah, but once again, you guys' East Coast bias is showing. You look at the Pac-12 and Arizona State compared to Washington and Washington State. I mean, that's quite the same.
How dare we be East Coast biased? Wait, that's kind of
but again, Washington and Washington State are in the north, whereas Arizona and Arizona State are in the south.
Yeah, but if you only go conference only, the thought is you play everyone in your conference.
Actually, no. The original idea of going conference only is so you have those 8 or 9 games. It's only the Big Ten that's trying to push a 10th.
So, hypothetically speaking here, let's say the Pac-12 goes to an 8-game schedule. So what would that be? Would that be the five against your in division and then the 3 crossovers against the other side? You're looking at playing teams that are outside of your jurisdiction. Not to mention it could potentially throw off the home and away factor as well.
That would be the trickiest part.
There's going to be a lot of work that's going to need to be done in order to be able to get in the college football schedule this year. Honestly, my hopes are not high at this point.
Not to mention, and you just brought up a good argument, those that have an 8-game conference season versus those that have a 9-game conference season.
Yeah, I just looked at Washington State's schedule. They play Arizona State this year. They don't play Arizona.
Well, I would imagine that the schedules would have to be adjusted, though, wouldn't they?
Not necessarily.
Well, no, because if you're in a cross conference like that, it would probably just stay the same for who you're playing conference with. I mean, the Big Ten's probably going to go 10, which would be 6 in their division and 4 across. The Big 12 would probably still want to do all 10 teams, like you play all 9 opponents. So, correct me if I'm wrong, Randy. Doesn't the Pac-12 play a 9-game conference schedule as well?
They play a 9-game schedule, yes.
So I would think that conferences are going to have to go minimum 9.
For fairness, yes, 9 would be the best. Now here's the big rub. College football playoff.
It's shot.
I'm going to argue that this is going to have to be a situation where the polls are going to decide the national champion this year.
Yeah.
All right, so Alabama is already national champion because we all know that the SEC biased.
It's either Alabama or Clemson. One of those two.
I mean, Alabama. I don't know. It might hurt Alabama because now they ain't playing like 3 JV squads, 2 high schools, and a correctional facility.
I was waiting for your Route 60 for our Institute for the Blind comment from last season.
Yeah. Well, no, they had to drop them this year. They got a new quarterback and running back in, and Alabama said that it might be too much of a game.
In case you can't tell, Jason hates the SEC.
Yes, I hate the SEC with a passion. Hey, just throwing this out there. You know why SEC females can't have sex reverse cowgirl? Because you don't turn your back on family.
That's messed up, but funny. I'll give you credit. At least it was funny.
Look, I'm in the middle of SEC country, and I can't even say anything about that.
On a related note, go Gators. All right, Erik, topic 5.
Oh, now I gotta scroll back because I saw something funny in the chat.
Jason posting shit throws off her game as per usual.
Naturally, but again, it's funny.
Keep you on your toes.
So, as it was previously announced, we're not going to have a Hall of Fame game this year. We're not going to have a Hall of Fame ceremony this year. Everything has been bumped back to 2021. Completely fair. But with everything that's gone on this offseason and the level of dumbassery, I figured, just for the 2020 class, who would be in the Dumbass Hall of Fame? I'm looking at you, Aldrich Rosas.
Your kicker is special, Jason.
And your wide receiver.
I don't know. I'm going to take the hometown boy that just got drafted, who proudly displayed his tattoo, not knowing the meaning behind it.
Oh God.
I'm actually gonna show a little bit of hometown bias here as well. There was a wide receiver that Cleveland drafted in the 5th or 6th round out of Youngstown State University, who managed to get drunk, drive his car into Lake Erie.
Go Penguins!
Well, I mean, he did get drafted by the Browns.
It may have been on purpose. I'll have to look up a name, but while I do that, Randy...
I bet I know who it was. I bet it was Casey Anthony's new husband.
I caught part of that, but Randy, you've been following the NFL offseason here. Which dumbass is the greatest dumb to ask this particular offseason?
This offseason? That's tough to tell. When we were looking at it, I was thinking of all-time Hall of Fame. So I'm thinking Plexico Burress, who shot himself. But for this offseason, I got to do a little more research.
We're doing all-time Hall of Fame. I'd like to, since we're in July, give an honorable mention to Jason Pierre-Paul, who had an explosive 4th of July one offseason.
Give me 4.
3 ain't enough, man. You need 4?
Yeah, he's still got a nub on that 4th one. He's still got a nub. One's gone. He's got a nub. He's back it up, Terry. Back it up. Put it in reverse.
I mean, I guess if you're talking about this season, Greg Robinson wins the whole thing, right? The offensive lineman for the Browns who got caught with 157 pounds of marijuana.
He was just trying to have a fun Erik party. That's all he was trying to do.
He was on his way to visit Erik.
Look, I mean, it would have taken a while, but it would have been disposed of. You just wouldn't have heard from me.
Erik said that would have been a good weekend.
Jeremiah Lamont Braswell was the Cleveland Browns player who drove into Lake Erie. And this is to say nothing about the 2 players that held up a poker game, allegedly.
Oh, you mean the ones that allegedly had a witness pay people off to recant their statements? Allegedly.
Oh, it gets better. It gets better. This is not counting Earl Thomas, who allegedly got caught tamming a chick with his brother, and his wife walked in and pulled a gun on his dumb ass.
Tag team, back again. Check your rectum. Let's begin.
Party on, party people. Let's make some noise.
JC's in the house. Jump rejoice.
Jason?
Party over there. Throw your hands in the air. Shake the area. These 3 words when you're getting busy.
Whoop, there it is.
Tonight's episode of the Kickoff no longer brought to you by Depeche Mode. That's an off-air joke. Erik will get it. That's all that matters.
So does this technically count as our musical episode?
No.
Hamilton on Disney Plus. These times on this show before, we cannot be bought, but we can damn sure be rented.
We are for rent. $3 hooker on a Friday night.
I don't know. You better bump that up to 5. I've got some stories.
All right. And the last one, I do have a bonus that I want to discuss. It's going to be a serious note, but I'm going to save it for a future episode.
Well, this one, it's a little bit of developments right before we came on air. It's the team to be named later. Unfortunately, if the news comes out to be true that there's going to be a very big deal come Monday, we can no longer call the team the Washington Redacteds.
The fuck we aren't.
Well, if they decide on Warriors, they will still be the Redacteds in my eyes.
Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what they change their name to. They are now and forever the Washington Redacteds on this podcast.
But see, why couldn't they actually make that their official name and just have the names blacked out on the back of the jerseys?
And then, like, the helmet logo is a face with the cancer culture symbol through it.
See, that would work.
We're
starting quarterback. And at wide receiver, it writes itself.
Speaking of people who dumbass, thank you for everything in your contribution to this topic, Daniel Snyder.
No wonder your own partners even want to sell the team from underneath you.
All right, continue, Erik.
Oh, so there has been rumors and some logos and some mock-ups, and even head coach Ron Rivera has said that he's been making headway and speaking to Dan Snyder about the name. There's going to be an announcement to where the current name is going to be retired. A new name is going to be introduced, and with completely new, non-Native American imagery. All of this after Nike and Pepsi have pulled their advertising ties. Amazon has pulled gear from the store. The minority partners are looking to sell their portion of the team. So yeah, Snyder is like, I don't want to lose money. I got to fix this.
FedEx has said that if they did not get rid of the team name, they would take away the sponsorship rights to the stadium.
Not to mention, if they do decide to move back into D.C. on the site of what is now RFK, the district told them you've got to change the name.
All right, so this is actually per what Erik just said here in the ESPN app alert section. And we'll talk that name. Not say that in this show. At least not intentionally. Name to be announced at a later date, courtesy of Sport Business Daily. It doesn't matter what they change their name to; they're still going to be the redacted to us.
It's going to be the DC. It's going to be the DC.
Redacted.
Instead of Washington, it's going to just be the DC.
Which we talked about off air before we started, and I said would probably be the greatest troll job in NFL history. That being. I mean, this is long overdue, is it not?
Yeah.
But Jason actually has a theory about this because he was not happy about them being forced to change their name because he said that there are other teams in sports the same as well. Jason, why don't we bring that conversation to the air here?
Yeah, I mean, in the culture we live in, I think if you're going to make one team do it, any team that has a Native American mascot, regardless of anything, people, chimed in about the Florida State thing. I don't care. it's still looking into that. It was really shady. There was some shady stuff that went on to get that. I think if you're going to do one, you need to do it across the board. Don't set that standard and live by it. I don't, because if you pick and choose, it creates an issue. Just like something that we're going to discuss in a future episode that me and Erik actually have talked about, and then I posed the question to Erik, society today and how the impact that will happen. I think like the Cleveland Indians, I know that they voluntarily changed the Chief Wahoo logo a while back because it was a character stand-up, But I think if you're going to make one team change, and when I made this post on Facebook, and I pissed a lot of people off, because they didn't do the research. Actually, the Kansas City Chiefs had a protest led against them after they won the Super Bowl to change their name because a few tribes was protesting the Chief name. Teams are it's financial gain. There is, to my knowledge, in my research, to my knowledge, I could be wrong. Not say that I'm not. You're making monetary gain off of a Native American culture, and in this society that we now set the precedent, culture appropriation is a thing. I'm about to fucking sit up terms because that little pecan can't catch him. But I think you need to look at it as can't pick and choose. You need to set the standard and live by it. Harry, you want to chime in?
Well, I'm actually going to kind of touch on it there because one of the teams that you mentioned in that particular conversation that you had on Facebook came out and said, do these orders that they will not be dating the team name.
You kind of broke up there.
All right. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I believe you were saying in reference to Atlanta.
That Braves have come out and said they will not be changing their team name.
But they are going to look at the chop.
Yeah, they are going to possibly consider removing the Tomahawk chop from the Atlanta Braves franchise. But they will not be changing the Atlanta Braves team name, despite mostly because of the fact that it dates all the way back to the time of the Boston Braves as well.
Mm-hmm. And so, just like the Indians, yes, they are going to potentially look to change their name. And the first step with that was removing Chief Wahoo as a mascot. So I understand, and I flat out said, it's either you change your name or you make a deal with the Native Americans. One or the other.
Do you think it's going to become cool? Let me ask you this, Randy. Yeah, I know. I'm working on that. I just had my set, so I apologize for the audio issues that we are experiencing. Real quick before I mute my microphone, Randy, I'm going to ask you here. Do you think it's going to become a case of, for the cultural appropriation here, that like for the Native American teams, it's going to end up requiring payola down the road, similar to the story with Florida State and the Seminole tribe?
Sorry, that was really broke up. I couldn't hear it.
Erik, take over for a quick second, okay? Let me reset some stuff.
Sure. What Harry was asking was, do you think that this could lead to payola down the road for the Native American tribes as basically saying, hey, if you don't want to change your name, you've got to make a deal. So along those lines.
I don't know about that. I don't think just because there's a nickname that is is thought of as Native American stuff that they all of a sudden should get money for it. It's just out of bad taste. Like has been said that I honestly, I think, who cares about a nickname? Just change it. Like, if people are offended by it, who cares? Change your name. It's not a big deal. As a fan of the Jets, obviously the Jets aren't going to offend anybody, but if they decided to be called something else next week, who cares? Then I'd be a fan of whatever nickname they came out of. So
that brings up something as well. Now, Ben Roethlisberger has came out to sue the Nashville Predators due to he feels offended about that.
Well,
that's great.
With him still looking like Yukon Cornelius, what does that tell you? But, to Randy's point, the New York Jets were originally the New York Titans. The Yankees were originally the Highlanders. You had the Cincinnati Reds used to be the Cincinnati Redmen. Sometimes change is necessary. Sometimes it creates a better brand. Now, I think with some Native American tribes, especially with the situations that they've been in, going back to being on reservations, and I can go into the politics about treaties and everything, but I won't. I think some of them would deserve it and would benefit from it, but I don't know if they would necessarily ask.
Okay, once again, I'd like to apologize for the audio difficulties that we've had on this particular episode. I found the source of the issues, and I will be having a conversation with my internet provider about the source of the issue.
Get yourself a discount.
But to the whole paper placing for the Native American, if you're going to want to use those kinds of names, it's going to reach a point where you have to.
And this is kind of what I was saying.
Usage of those names. Jason.
Okay, that last bit was really muddled.
God damn it.
I think if you can reach some kind of agreement, I brought this. I even brought this up, and it was really controversial because I made this statement. If Dan Snyder came out and said, "Okay, we're going to funnel all merchandising into some kind of fund to assist Native Americans," what would be the issue of that? Change your logo, keep the name, change the logo. Is it offensive? Yeah, it can be. But this has been going on that I know of. Like I said in my brief research, this has been a topic since the 60s.
Mm-hmm.
It's a business. Like I said, you can't do it's a slippery slope. Where does it stop? What guidelines go through? What do you need to do to be accepted? You got a lot of parameters, a lot of legal ramifications. And I agree with Randy. Change the name. That's fine. But do it across the board. Why pick and choose? It's one of those things that, there's plenty of generic names out there. I dated a girl that was offended by the word giant. She was 6'1".
Hey, nothing wrong with Amazons. Let me tell you, some of my best...
No, they get their shit here quick.
Different kind of Amazons, but okay.
But why even have a mascot? Why not just go represent your city?
Oh, because the teams will change city more than they'll change their nickname.
Not to mention, look at the Pittsburgh Steelers. They were just fine, but even they realized, maybe we need a mascot. And then here comes old Steely McBean. It just happens.
Giants don't have a mascot. You're like my wife, Harry. I see your lips moving, but I don't hear a word you're saying.
So while Harry figures that out, what do you guys think the name's going to be?
I hope Red Tails. Warriors is about the only one that I'm going to be against.
I think it's going to be. I think it's going to be Red Tails. I think that's gained a lot of the support, and I've seen a lot of momentum pushing to that. Will I be okay with it? Yeah. I mean, it's a name. It's a team name.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like, is it going to personally affect me? No, I'll still hate them. They're division rivals. Still think they're shit. I'll still hate them and the Cowgirls. But along with Pittsburgh, because I just hate Pittsburgh. But I mean, it's a name. You know, you can change a name. You can change cities. But I mean, it's a monetary branding of a team, and you know, it goes back to where does it stop? I mean, do you go after the Seminoles? Do you go after the Blackhawks? Do you go after the Chippewas?
And a lot of those have been gone after. It's just whether those owners decide to change it or not.
Yeah, I mean, it gets to the point to where if the brand loses money, and for Washington, it's been losing money even aside from this because they've been horseshit. But if the brand loses money, they'll go ahead and rebrand. Seen that all the time.
Yeah, but I think as far as the name goes, Red Tails probably is the leader. But I look at it with all these rumors, as you're saying, Redskins minority owners are looking to sell and stuff, and there's a guy that wants to buy it. You know, Jeff Bezos. We were talking about Amazon, so I think it's going to be the Washington Prime. I think that's what their team name is going to be. And they're going to announce Jeff Bezos has bought all of this stuff.
Well, no,
maybe not.
Because Washington can't deliver.
Well, not to mention the fact that look at what happened when Amazon bought the naming rights to the new hockey arena in Seattle. Climate Change Arena. You don't know what the hell Bezos is going to do. You just know what's going to happen the next day.
2 days max. All right, can you guys hear me now?
Yeah,
yes, we can. And I had to get that one in while I did because I didn't want to hear a family show just yet.
We're actually on the under right now, which is incredibly shocking and a little disappointing, if I'm being honest.
Just wait. If Jason sets me up, just be ready.
As far as the whole Washington name change goes, I'm officially going with the Red Tails, but Warriors would not surprise me just because I feel like that would be Daniel Snyder's way to say fuck all of you for making me change it in the first place and still sticking with something that has kind of that Native American connotation to it.
I would get it, and it would be him, but I still say for something like that, it's too generic.
I think it's going to be interesting too with the Red Tails one is that I think it would add a little bit of individuality to the organization too, because that's not a team name that you see in any other sport there. Whereas the Warriors have Golden State in the NBA.
Golden State, University of Hawaii, multiple high schools, you name it.
Well, Rainbow Warriors for Hawaii, but I get your point.
No, last I checked, they dropped the word rainbow.
Yeah, it was offensive.
It's fucking cancel culture. Kiss my ass.
Oh no, this was done a few years back, not too recent.
Yeah, I mean it got up and they changed it because I remember reading something that there was a petition that said that the rainbow part was offensive to the LGBTQRSXYZ community.
LGBTQIA+.
Yeah, them too.
Opinions of Jason Teasley definitely do not reflect those of the rest of us here at the Kickoff.
Well, I mean, no, I mean, I support your lifestyle, but it's just so hard to keep up with everything that's included now.
He supports your lifestyle.
I mean, I just read about transgender person on Twitch that thinks they're deep. I'm okay with it.
All right, do we have anything else to discuss before we call it a wrap on this particular episode? That's all 6 of the news talk that Erik had prepared.
Yeah, you need to get your fucking fixed.
I'm so pissed off about my internet tonight. I'm not even gonna lie. Like, shit, I'm fuming right now.
I mean, people, y'all's lucky this is. I'm not doing any research. Yeah.
See, Google, y'all had a great chance with Google Fiber since you want to take over everything else on the damn planet, but no!
What I'm going to try to do for next week's episode is I'm going to try to reset my router right before it starts. That way it hopefully gives me a much better mix. I might even use the laptop.
Remember,
the laptop seems to work.
You just unplug it for 10 seconds, then plug it back in.
That's what she said. Giggity. Nothing. Okay. I was waiting.
No, and that wasn't even a no-sill. That's just, you're on your island.
I was waiting for Erik to have something funny to say to that. All right, Randy, where can people find you online?
Oh, pretty basic. On Twitter, I'm at Randy Isbelle, and I guest on a bunch of these other W2M podcasts on the video game ones every so often. Not too much right now.
Erik, where can people find you online?
At Squid Sportshead on Twitter. Soccer to the Max is set to make a comeback this week. And if you want to talk about different tutoring or anything else on Facebook, find me under Erik Watkins. Again, guy, wine, recliner, you got the right idea. And naturally, if you're willing to undergo a vetting process and do a little bit more screening, slide into my DMs at Squid Sportshead, and you get access to my dark Twitter, Instagram, Telegram, Snapchat, etc. And this plug brought to you by the fine people at Rick's TNT LLC, now affiliated with Dun & Bradstreet.
Okay, before getting his online plugs, Randy, do yourself a favor and do not scroll back in his group chat at all.
I don't know why not.
Trust me, don't scroll back on the group chat. Where can people find you online?
You can find me at W2M Chairman on Twitter. If you find me on Facebook or Instagram, I'll tell you to go fuck yourself. But closing out, I do want to welcome Randy to the group. It's been a pleasure, doing the show, and hopefully we do have a fourth going forward. And we can branch out and stay podcast going.
If you need the Eagle on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram, on pretty much any of the other major social media that you can think of, that's where you can find me. Erik personal Facebook as well would be the easiest way to find me there. And I'm going to once again apologize for the audio difficulties I have had this evening. I am not happy about it. Inspector will be hearing from me about it because of the fact that it's internet service that isn't giving me issues. So hopefully we'll have that all straightened up by the time we come back to next. Hopefully there's over things because we won't have to go 4 weeks to 10 episodes anymore here. We're ready. Welcome aboard.
Yeah, glad to be here. Hopefully the internet works out better and we can hear each other better next week.
I tell you.
And remember,
Sure.
we went easy on you.
I appreciate it.
For the Riz, Randy Isbelle, the unprofessional Jason Teasley, and the anchor man, Erik Watkins, who is now the executive producer once again. I can't say that without fucking it up. I'm your host. My name is Harry Broadhurst. You have been listening to The Kickoff, a presentation of the W2M Network, online at W2Mnet.com. In addition, you can find all of the archived episodes of The Kickoff on all of your favorite listening platforms, iTunes, iHeartRadio, Spreaker, Podbean, Castbox, Stitcher. Hey, guess what?
Spotify is here.
Daniel Snyder's full deck. Thanks for listening, everybody. And again, apologize for the issues. Hopefully better next time. Can't promise, but hopefully we will. Here on The Kickoff, a presentation of the W2M Network.